ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ.
Thank you very much, Subhashi, for this wonderful chanting. And friends, today we will emphasize on the concept of self and service, as I have already pointed before. So let me briefly tell you that what is the concept of service. As Swami Vivekananda says, this is the gist of all kind of worship, to be pure and to do good to others. If you want to find God, then serve man. To reach Narayan, you must try to serve the Daridra Narayan, the millions of starving population. If you look that self and service, both are mutually inclusive concept. They are the two sides of the same coin. Just a little bit awareness is required. It helps us to see the non-duality of the qualified whole. Seva Paramo Dharam. And today we will try to understand this philosophy in depth through different dimensions under the guidance of Swamiji, who will enlighten us, who will show us the right path in this particular domain. But before that, let me briefly introduce you all the honored guest of the day, the honored guest of this entire event, Swami Narasimhananda. So, Swamiji is a monk of the Ramakrishna Mutt and Ramakrishna Mission, which is founded by Swami Vivekananda in the year 1897. And presently, Swamiji is also working as the secretary of Ramakrishna Mission, Sevashrama, Kozhikode, Kerala. Swamiji runs a higher secondary school, a kindergarten, and a polyclinic. Swamiji has always been the editor of Prabuddha Bharata, which is an English monthly journal devoted to social sciences and humanities. And it was also started in the year 1896 by Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji is a visiting faculty at the Jadavpur University. He regularly speaks at institutes of national importance like the IITs and give classes on management in various colleges across the country. He specializes in Indian studies, Indian philosophy, sociology of religion, philosophy of religion, and religious study. Swamiji also has publication in different languages, including Hindi, English, Sanskrit, Malayalam, Bengali, and Tamil. He is currently working on English translation of Swarajya Siddhi and Maitreyi Upanishad and collaborate with different academicians in formulating an Indian framework of religious studies, comparative religion, and sociology of religion. Therefore, now I would request the president of the society, Yuvrajji, to come and welcome the esteemed guest of honor, Swamiji. So Yuvrajji, if you are here.
Thank you, Prernaji. Advaita Society of Delhi University welcomes everyone to the first session of our series, Journey from Self to Service. Advaita is an initiative to connect every individual of the university who has an inquisitiveness for knowing oneself and an inclination towards spirituality, meditation, and selfless service. We believe that without knowing oneself, one cannot devote himself or herself to selfless service. And for knowing the nature of our being, we have commenced this series of lectures. Today, we will be graced by Swami Narasimhananda, Secretary of the Ramakrishna Mission Ashram, Kozhikode. We welcome Swamiji. We would like to thank our respected Principal, Dr. Rama, and our convener, Dr. Parul Pant, Assistant Professor at the Department of Chemistry, Sanskrit College, for their constant support and guidance. We thank each and every one of you for coming. Prernaji, we can begin.
Sure. Thank you, Yuvrajji, for your address. So before starting, I would like to put one thing for the audience, that if you have any query, then kindly drop your questions in the chat box. We will be taking up your question one by one at the end. And it's a humble request to all of you that please try to keep your question as brief and precise as possible for our own convenience too. अब मैं स्वामी जी से निवेदन करूंगी कि वो आए और हम सभी का मार्गदर्शन करें. स्वामी जी.
प्रेरणा जी, कितना समय है बोलने के लिए?
स्वामी जी, आप अपने हिसाब से, मतलब हम सभी को इस मार्ग पर जितना भी हम एनलाइटन हो सके, मैक्सिमम 45 मिनट्स में आप अपनी बात कहें.
अधिकतम 45 मिनट. और भाषा क्या होगा?
I think people are well versed in Hindi and English too.
अच्छा.
Hindi and English both will be comfortable.
हाँ ना, कौन सा ज्यादा अच्छा रहेगा, हिंदी या अंग्रेजी?
So audience, kindly drop Hindi or English, which would be more comfortable in chat box.
I think we can have English because there are people from different parts of the country, so we are more comfortable with English as of now.
Okay, fine.
Sure.
That's all right. अच्छा, so 45 minutes. Okay. तो शुरू कर सकते हैं ना?
जी जी बिल्कुल.
ओ जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः. A very good evening to all of you. I'm very happy to be a part of this initiative, quite appreciable initiative by the Advaita Society of Hansraj College to bring to the young minds different facets of Indian spirituality and Indian philosophy in a manner that can be practiced in our day-to-day lives. And the theme of this series of lectures is from self to service. It's reminiscent of the motto of Ramakrishna Mutt and Ramakrishna Mission, which was formulated by Swami Vivekananda, the founder of these twin organizations. And the motto is in Sanskrit, Atmano Mokshartam Jagat Hitahecha. It's a mantra taken from the Rig Veda, known to be the oldest Veda and also the oldest religious text. Atmano Mokshartham, for one's own moksha, Jagat Hitayacha, and also for the good of the world. As Prerna was telling all of us, these two aspects of knowing the self, discovery of the self, and serving the fellow living beings are but obverse and reverse of the same coin. But before that, let us see what is happening right now. Across the world, we are freeing ourselves from the clutches of the great pandemic, or rather the only pandemic, COVID-19. And slowly we are trying to adjust ourselves with the new normals. How wonderful it would have been if we had this meeting in person. We could all see all the young minds, not some square, brackets on the screen, but all young minds one could have seen. So those days are not very far. Things will become like that. But as we know, there are new normals. So humanity, or the species called Homo sapiens sapiens, has once again tried to come out victoriously from a great tragedy. And now, talking of tragedy, why is it that we feel pain? Why is it we feel miserable? Why is it that we feel suffering? Why do we suffer? If we carefully analyze all instances of suffering, we come to the conclusion, and it's a quite firm conclusion, which has been arrived at by people for millennia, starting or not starting, but also by Lord Buddha, also by the oldest philosopher called sage Kapila, who propounded the philosophy of Sankhya. All these people have been unanimous in saying that suffering is something which makes us wake up to the unreality of this universe. But why do we suffer? To put it very simply, all kinds of separation or the anxiety of separation or the possibility of separation causes suffering. So why did Corona cause suffering to us? Because we were anxious that we would be separated from the condition known as life, that we would die. That's why people are afraid of death, because they are afraid of losing what they now possess. When do we experience different kinds of human emotions? Only when we perceive or when we think there is a separation. So I hate someone when there is someone to hate. If there is no one to hate, how will I hate myself? Of course, many people hate themselves, but that is, if you analyze, that is because they perceive some kind of inferiority in themselves vis-a-vis or compared to other people. So it's because of comparison that people hate themselves, that I am unable to succeed. I'm unable to prove myself to my friends, family, and society. All separation brings this problem, and unification brings happiness. So if you want to buy a particular model of mobile phone, and you have seen that, and there is some deal going on obviously online, but you don't have money, you feel miserable, or you have some pain, or you feel bad. But if you are able to acquire that mobile phone at a price which you think was a very good deal, you feel happy about it. All unification, all understanding leads us to happiness. All separation, all ignorance leads us to misery. This is the crux of why we suffer. And so in physics, we all know this person, Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein is known so much, and we use him in popular culture so much, refer to him so much, but his mind has been seldom understood. So Albert Einstein was a person who had the courage to attempt new things, go to fresh pastures, analyze things which he hasn't. So much so that after getting his Nobel Prize, he had the courage to posit theories which were really fantastic and write papers which were rejected by journals. So that was Albert Einstein. That part of his life, most people don't know or don't understand. This Albert Einstein, as most of you who are studying physics or physicists know, towards the end of his life, was on a quest to understand that one force which will explain all the forces of this universe. He called it the unified grand theory, etc. Unified field theory. And from there on, physicists have tried to understand that one force which will explain whatever happens in this universe. The funny part is, the moment a religious person tries to do the same thing, the religious person is called superstitious. So Swami Vivekananda says that superstitions are there everywhere. It's there in science, it's there in religion, because human beings are made in a manner that they want to believe things. So that's a hardware problem of the human beings. So if you study some branch of science, there will be some theory told by someone, and it is like, it is sacred. No one can question that. That is a scientific superstition. Swami Vivekananda says. Similarly, of course, we know in society and in religion and in many cultural traditions, there are various superstitions. Now, what Einstein wanted to find out was the very question asked millennia ago in the Upanishads. Kasminnu bhagavan vigyate sarvamidam vigyatum bhavati. What is that by knowing which all of this is known? All of this meaning all that we see in this universe is known. This question bothers the mind of the philosopher, the mind of the religious person, the mind of the spiritual aspirant, the mind of the scientist. So this is a question which is common to all people. Interestingly, as most of you might have studied Greek history, earlier there was only philosophy. And it is from the branch of philosophy that all the branches of knowledge have come out. So when a person starts thinking deeply into aspects of life and death, that is philosophy. And Swami Vivekananda said that the question of a philosopher is why, not how. So philosopher is more interested in why this is necessary. So going to that question of the philosopher, why should we try to know ourselves? That is the question. Why should I know myself? I have my MasterCard and Visa card, or I have Bitcoin, probably people who have, or I have online stores like Amazon, Flipkart, and so many other stores. And then for other things, I have Zomato and Swiggy. Why should I try to know myself? These things are good enough for me to live. And why should I try to know myself? That's the question. Now, this question, as I told you in the beginning, is answered negatively in the sense that if you don't know yourself, then you would not be able to attain an everlasting happiness. Everlasting happiness? How can somebody have everlasting happiness? Are we talking about the human body becoming deathless? Are we talking about some new scientific breakthrough? No. Everlasting happiness means a condition where you would not be disturbed by whatever changes happen in your environment, in your surroundings. That kind of a happiness. But this is not like, this is not stoicism, or it is not being stone-hearted or stone-faced. You do experience things of the world, but you are not perturbed by what you don't get, and you are not overjoyed or attached to what you get. This is what has been told by Sri Krishna in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when he defines the characteristics of a person who is rooted in one's self. That person is called Sthita Prajna. Sthita means established. Prajna, wisdom. A person whose wisdom or understanding is established in one's true nature. When I use the word true, it automatically means that there is something which is false. And also that now the nature which we associate ourselves with is a false nature. What is the nature we associate ourselves with? For most people who have the courage to look at themselves, their own likeness in the mirror, just after getting up from their bed, because that is a horrible sight for most people. So if you have the courage, then you understand that most of the times we associate ourselves with the body, not even the mind. We associate ourselves with our body. We think we are the body. And of course, we know that since birth, our body has changed so much. And then if we have a deep insight into things, then we also associate ourselves to some extent with the thoughts that we have. But mostly we associate ourselves with our body. Next, to some extent, with the thoughts we have. Because I say this because hardly you will come across somebody who will, or very rarely you will come across somebody who will say, oh, I cannot live because people don't accept what I say. That is the kind of talk philosophers and scientists have. And that's why generally these people are considered crazy or mad. So we associate ourselves to the great extent with the body and to some extent with our minds. And that is the problem, because both are our body and the mind changes, and we have seen it changing across so many years in this life. So that means that is not something which we can associate with on a long term, or that is not something which we align ourselves with, which we identify ourselves with. Why? Because interestingly, my face has changed, my body has changed, my mind has changed. The thoughts which I used to have as a child are definitely not the thoughts I have today, but I continue to identify myself as the same person who was a child. So people have very embarrassing photos of their childhood, thanks to the parents. I don't know what is it with parents. They make it a point to take all the embarrassing pictures of their children. Okay. So sometimes it is in the nude, sometimes something, pictures which you would not be very happy to share with your friends when you grow up. So when you see those pictures, it's really tough to identify yourself with those pictures. So you can also post those pictures in a social media site and say, oh, try to find me here. Where am I? So much has changed. Also, after teenage, you have changed so much. After probably getting the first, love affair or something, you have changed so much. After probably getting into first employment, you have grown so much. You have understood that there's no point in talking to the boss because boss is always right. Such, insights you get. Your mind has changed, your body has changed, but still one thing does not change in us. And it's interesting that very few people think of that. And that is the sense of I. Even people who suffer from complete amnesia, that is complete erasure of memory, complete erasing of memory. They forget everything, but they don't forget this concept I. It's a very pathetic sight to come across such people, but I have seen some such patients, and I was surprised. Of course, I'm not talking about feature films, because everyone has seen such a scene in some movie. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about true incidents. And I was surprised how a person does not forget this concept of I. Now, for a person who has completely forgotten one's name, what one was, even forgotten one's partner or spouse, one's parents, everything, but not to forget I, it's an interesting thing. And that is why in the Upanishads, the I has been given a lot of importance. And also in recent times, saints like Ramana Maharshi have stressed this point that one has to try to find who this I is. So who am I? What is this I? Definitely it is not the body, because the concept of I does not change as rapidly as the body changes. Or the concept of I does not change as rapidly my mind changes. In the morning, depending of course upon the breakfast, my mind is either good or bad. And towards the evening again, depending upon the incidents happening across the day, my mind again changes. But my idea of I, which is so interwoven into my personality that I'm not even aware of it. It's so inside me. See, what are family members? Family members are people whom we love so much that we completely ignore them. So whatever is so near to you, you ignore it. That is one of the signs of something being very near to you. And so I is like that, like our heartbeat. We forget our breathing. We forget that we are breathing because it is so intricately connected with us. So in the path or in the journey to understand oneself, first step is to understand what this I is. Because as I like to use humor a lot, and you see, wherever you add I, there is a problem. For example, take this word perfect. Okay. The moment you say perfect, it's all right. Try adding the shortened version of I am perfect. It becomes imperfect. I am perfect. I apostrophe am perfect, imperfect. Balance, imbalance. And that's why probably, I don't know whether Sri Ramakrishna knew so much English, but that's why probably Sri Ramakrishna said that if the I is destroyed, then all problems will be solved. So the I, of course, the I he was talking about is an I which does not have proper understanding. An I which is, as he used to call, kacha ami in Bengali. That means kacha mein, or unripe I, which is not ripe. And paka ami or pakka mein, which is ripe I. So there is the sense of ego in us which propels us to do everything we do, and that ego are at two levels. One ego is which knows that I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the energy which is there in me, I am beyond this. And that is an mature, trained ego. That's an ego which helps us to understand ourselves, and eventually we reach there. There's the other ego, which comes with another problem, and that is the ego says, I am this body, I am this mind, I am this energy, my biceps, triceps, or size 0, whatever you associate yourself with. And then it comes with an associated problem, and that is the sense of possession. So I am this, and this is mine. Again, when we possess something, you separate that thing from yourself. You say, my iPhone. Probably iPhones became more popular because Steve Jobs did this. You know, he had an I to phone. Wonderful thing if you think of it. People are all very happy. If you have a phone from some other company, no matter how costly it is, nobody bothers. But if you have iPhone, then suddenly you are like, people are looking at you, you're being noticed. So I is the key point here. And so to understand yourself in a manner that you know what is it that keeps yourself always present. As I said, from infancy to death, the sense of I is always there. It is there. What is it that gives this constancy to this I? That should be our first question. So that means anything that changes cannot be I, because then it will not be constant. So I is something which is constant. How do we know? We experience. We experience. Even when my energy is going down, I know I. And every day we experience another beautiful thing which we have not thought of. We sleep. Sleep, and sleep is divided into two phases. One, according to the medicine, field of medicine, the first phase is called rapid eye movement phase. What does it mean? That is the dream phase. When we sleep, we dream. When somebody dreams, then if you go and see that person, if that person is not having the habit of sleeping with open eyes, yes, some people sleep like that with eyes open. I have seen, and it is really very like horror movie or something. Their eyes are open, and then you say, hey, suno, hey, sun rahe ho kya? Then that person is snoring also. Then you are really, it is quite horrendous a sight to see. So unless, of course, that is happening, which is a condition, by the way, people who sleep, their eyeballs move when they are dreaming. And that's called rapid eye movement phase. And when they are not dreaming, which is called deep sleep, their eyeballs don't move. When that thing happens, our mind is not functioning basically at that time. Physiologically speaking, your brain is also there. It is almost, I will not say exactly on a coma stage, but almost like a coma stage. You don't have any thought. You don't remember anything from the deep sleep phase or the phase of non-REM, that is non-rapid eye movement phase. And at that moment, it is practically impossible for you to say that I exist, because there is no one who can say this. I'm talking about this not philosophically, but physiologically. That is why many times when we want to get up from sleep, it takes some time for us to get up from sleep, or conversely, when we are jolted up, we are woken up because of shock or something from sleep, it takes some time for us to become normal. Because in sleep, during dream phase, gradually our control over our body is reduced. In deep sleep state, that goes away completely. For those of you who want to have a wonderful discussion on this, I refer you to a wonderful book published by the Columbia University Press, written by a Buddhist by practice, a philosopher by profession, Evan Thompson. The book is called Waking, Being, Dreaming, Being. Waking, Dreaming, Being. Evan Thompson in this book brings in insights from psychologists, neuroscientists, and philosophers, of course, and also religious practitioners, to show how these three states, which in Sanskrit are called Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti, of course not being. Being is Turiya, which is beyond the three states. So Jagrat means waking state, Swapna means dreaming state, and Sushupti means deep sleep state. So these three states, they tell us so much about how to understand the self, how the self behaves in these three states. There's another book, interestingly named Zen and the Brain. And this book is a bit technical because it is written by a medical practitioner, a surgeon, in fact, who practiced Zen Buddhism, but it gives us insights into how neurology or neuroscience explains many phenomena which we experience during spiritual practices. So the fact that every day I am going to a state where I lose the idea of I, but every day I come back to the state where I do everything with the idea of I. This itself is a wonderful fact. We don't ponder about this, we don't think about it, but this is a wonderful thing. Every day I'm going into sleep, and there is a equal portion of sleep. Generally, the non-rapid eye movement phase and rapid eye movement phase are 50-50. So I spend almost half of my sleep in a state where I have no consciousness of myself. But when I come out of that state, I immediately think that I am doing. So this is a wonderful thing. Why don't I think about this? And on the other hand, whenever I am facing suffering, why don't I think about the state where I am actually happy, where I am feeling good about myself? In fact, Adi Shankaracharya in one of his texts says that when a person gets something which was desired by the mind, for a split second, there is bliss. And if one has to, he calls it sandhi. So if one has to bring constancy in bliss in one's life, then one has to think about that particular split second. Why does that happen? For example, say somebody is thinking of some particular food and is craving for that food, and for a long time, and afterwards gets a chance to have that food. Once that happens, once a person actually gets the food and has it, then what happens? Then the mind for a split second has nothing to engage itself with. The mind for some very small moment of time, very small amount of time, becomes free from any engagement. And that moment is when one feels blissful. Because it is our nature. Our true nature is Ananda. That means bliss. Bliss not which is dependent on something, but which is independent of something. So the fact that we feel suffering or feel whatever we feel, jealousy, anger, hatred, love, is because of our perceiving something other than us, or perceiving something separate from us. That is what is said in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where it is said, Dvitiyat vai bhayam bhavati. Vai means indeed. Indeed, it is because of the other that fear is experienced. Fear is representative of all human emotions. So we experience all human emotions because we perceive the other. In sociology or in the social sciences also, it's a big question, the othering or the other. In psychology also, it's a big question. You see someone different from yourself. And so many people or many kinds of living are marginalized. They are ostracized. They are discriminated. All this happens because of othering something. You separate something from you. Look around yourself. In 2021, today, we are living in a world which is increasingly polarized. What do you mean? In Hindi, it is called Dhruvikaran. It's just a translation. What it means is people are suddenly focusing on the micro thing of the most micro things. Suppose somebody is living in Karnataka, they are saying, okay, I am from the south part of Karnataka, you are from the north part of Karnataka. So I don't like your face, I will not talk to you. Another fellow says, you say, I am from the west side of UP, you are from the east side of UP. No, I will not talk to you. You are a different person, I am a different person. Even within one home, the father is saying, I belong to a different generation. No, fathers always said that, but today this topic is becoming, or this talk is becoming more frequent and often. The father is saying, I belong to a different generation, you belong to a different generation, we will not understand one another. So this polarization, because of language, because of culture, because of religion, or subsects in religion, because of professions, is increasing. Why? Because we have forgot to find convergence. Sri Ramakrishna says, Eker Gyan Gyan, Oneker Gyan Ogyan, in Bengali. Of course, it is quite similar to Hindi. एक का ज्ञान ज्ञान है और अनेक का ज्ञान अज्ञान है. Ignorance is the knowledge of the many, and true knowledge is the knowledge of one. That is what exactly physicists are also trying to prove. When things converge, when there's a synergy. Now, if you go to any university or if you go for higher studies, you will find that there is interdisciplinary studies, because it's become a important thing today. It has become a necessity. So there is bioengineering, then there is neuroengineering. There are so many things which are disciplines are crisscrossing. They are intersecting. They are coming together. And finally, everyone has to do MBA. And then you understand how life is so useless. And everyone has to work in bank or something like that. But jokes apart, artificial intelligence. Now, if you have natural intelligence or not, artificial intelligence is running the show. So here, everywhere, all human endeavor is going towards the convergence of knowledge. Knowledge coming together from various points and trying to understand or better utilize nature. And that is where we have to converge. We have to converge into ourself instead of converging into something else. Because the more you go outside yourself, the more suffering you will get, because that's the definition of suffering. Suffering is caused by separateness. So if you understand yourself, that is the wonderful mantra in the Katha Upanishad, which is basically a story of how this young boy, Nachiketa, goes to the king of death or lord of death, Yama, and understands what happens after death. So this question of external versus internal has been very poignantly put, very succinctly put by Lord Yama. He says, Paranchi Khani Vetrinat Swayambhu, that the Swayambhu or Lord has created a defect in all the sense organs. I call it the manufacturing defect. What is the defect? Paranchi Khani Vetrinat. Vetrinath, defect. Tasmat parang pashyati. So that is why all sense organs, they look at outside. We have ears. Just imagine, we can hear sounds which are produced from origins which are very far away from our body, but we cannot hear the sound produced just right in the body. That is the heartbeat, for example. Our ears don't listen to the heartbeat, or also so many other sounds produced in our body, which a doctor can easily see or hear after putting a stethoscope. So, paranchi khani vetrinath swayambhu tasmat parang pashyati na antaratman. All external things are seen, not the inside. And so, some people who want to understand what I truly am, some people who want to attain the state of immortality, knowing that even after the body perishes, one does not in truth perish. That is immortality, not trying to make this body live for long. Chinese people somehow can live up to 120, 130 years, but other people, normal people, they are unable to live that. So that is not the point here. The point here is to understand that my true nature never perishes. Just like the eye, which does not change, the eye is a window, a peephole into my true nature. So I don't change. I am always the same. Even if this body has an expiry date, but I don't have any expiry date. So avritta chakshuhu amritatvam icchan. People who desire to be one with their true state of immortality, they avritta chakshuhu. They turn their sense organs inward. That means they become more disciplined in using the sense organs. They become more inward. Their questioning is inward. They question themselves, because if the world was really wrong, then it should have been wrong for everyone. If a person is really bad, then that person should be bad for everyone. It does not happen like that. For a child, everything is good. And then because of something which we call education, the child is systematically corrupted and saying, hey, usse baat mat karna, isse baat mat karna, don't go there. And suddenly we find that, oh, so we are systematically corrupted. And then we are said that be childlike. Okay, we are told be childlike. So that's what we were to begin with. That's why there was this philosopher called Hamilton. And once Swami Vivekananda, then Narendranath Datta, was reading from this Hamilton, and Sri Ramakrishna heard that and he asked him to read it again. Hamilton says, the end of philosophy, a learned ignorance, is the end of philosophy and beginning of religion. A learned ignorance, where you know that you cannot know. A learned ignorance is the end of philosophy and beginning of religion. So philosophy, of course, includes science. So when you know that there is only so much you can know, when you know that there are boundaries of knowledge, then you become a philosopher, and you also become a person who wants to know oneself. You become a spiritual aspirant. And so that is important. That is how the journey to self begins. It does not begin in you believing in some particular deity, or in you believing in a particular text, or in you believing something like merit, punya, or demerit, papa, etc. It starts, this self journey of self starts in understanding yourself, or what is it in you that drives the notion of I, which does not change at all. Even if you are biologically changed, that I does not change. This is the journey to self. And that is why Bhagavan Buddha said, Atma Deepo Bhava. He said it in Pali, of course. So the idea is that you be a light to yourself. So you first try to understand yourself. The moment you try to understand yourself, then all religious paths say one thing unanimously, and that is religious enlightenment or religious fulfillment or religious experience is the experience of oneness with all. oneness with all. Different people express this in different ways, but this everyone says, feeling one with all. So that is why Sufi saints, they have written poems, songs, where they compare God with their beloved. And those songs, they sound like, or they read like love songs, but what they are talking about is the understanding of God. So oneness, becoming one, is, or becoming non-different, is the crux of spirituality. One can practice it in different manner, but essentially finding oneness, converging, is the crux of spirituality. When you do that, then Swami Vivekananda says, I serve the other person because I know that the other person is not other. I serve somebody because that's only my extension. Suppose I get a wound in my hand, would I not attend to that wound? I would. So the other person, which is a different body, is in essence my extension, because there is nothing in this universe which is different from me. And that's why in the Rig Veda you find a Rishika, that's a woman Rishi, saying that Aham Rudre Bir Vasubir Charamyaham. She is identifying herself with all the deities. She is identifying herself with all the universe. She says, I have become one with the universe. That's the enlightenment one gets. When one goes beyond this construct of body and mind, when one transcends beyond this puny existence of this array of human emotions. When one goes beyond that, when one uses one's thought to arrive at a thoughtless state, then one understands, one completely aligns with the universe. It happens. See, for instance, all of us are quite familiar with this imagery of rishis, sages. We have seen paintings also. We have also heard stories like that, that in a sage's hut or ashrama, there will be a deer sitting and there will be also a leopard or tiger sitting. Perfectly normal. We have also seen paintings like that. Where does this idea come from? Because it really happened. And also, if you study the lives or biographies of many saints, even in recent times, you will see that they went to some jungle to meditate and they saw some tiger. Tiger also looked at them and they also looked at the tiger, and then they went away their ways. Why? Because there was no sense of separateness. There was no idea of separateness. Again, I'm quoting Ramana Maharshi. When Ramana Maharshi used to take a stroll, a walk in the evening. So in the ashrama in Tiruvannamalai in Tamil Nadu, where he used to live towards the end. So in the ashrama, there was a calf. She was called Lakshmi. There was a dog. There was a snake. Now when Ramana Maharshi used to walk, all these people used to walk or move with him. Snake cannot walk actually. So they move with him. And they used to go, he used to go up to one place and then again turn, and all of these used to turn. And like that, they used to walk with him. So that alignment of thought, that alignment of true sense of being can be experienced. It is not something which we are making blah, blah, blah about. It is something which you can experience. And that is the point. That is why it is very important that young people like you, I also like to identify myself as young, though I am 47. So young people like us, we have this idea that we are not different from the other, or there is no other. Ekameva advitiyam. There is no other. The true reality is that there is no other. Once we are identified with this, then I don't need to find any logic to do service. That's why Swami Vivekananda said, Atmano mokshartham jagatitayacha. If you are striving to understand the self, service will become automatic for you. Because the self is nothing but whatever you see, but you are seeing wrongly. So self is not different from Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahman. All this what I see is indeed Brahman. And what is Brahman? Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. the Upanishads put it very, very nicely, very poetically. So I am Brahman, and whatever I see is indeed Brahman, but I am seeing it in a wrong way. Instead of, all Advaita Vedantins are very fond of this example. There is a dark room and there is a coiled rope, and this rope is misunderstood, mistook to be snake. Even when it is misunderstood to be snake, it does not become snake. It never becomes snake. Even when you are thinking about it as snake, it constantly is rope. Nothing changes actually. It is our idea which is wrong. So similarly, this universe is blissful, but not as objects of the senses, but as the presence of the universe. See, when we touch something, many people used to ask me, Swamiji, you say that this universe is unreal, but I touch the table and I am feeling it. It is there. This constancy, this presence comes to this universe because behind this, whatever we see, is that Sat Chit Ananda, that reality which is constantly existing. And a peephole into this reality is the idea of I. And if you just think about that I, you will understand that yes, it is true. It is true that no matter what happens, we always have this idea of I. And that is what we have to inquire about. That is what we have to research about. And when we do that, without this, we cannot do service. One of the brother monks or disciples, one of the monastic disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, brother monks of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Adbhutananda, he was not very educated in the formal sense, but he was a knower of Brahman. He was a great soul. And once some women from abroad India, mostly from the United States, they came to meet him and they asked him that we like to do social service or we want to help other people. And Swami Adbhutananda said that, why would you help someone? Do you believe in God? So some people said that, no, we don't believe. Among them, among those women, some people said, we don't believe. We just want to be ethical. We just want to help people. So we help. So Adbhutananda said, but there is no logic for that. If a person does not believe in the unreality of this universe or in the constancy of something which is higher than this universe, there is really no logic why you should help others. Because if you are this body, then survival of the fittest, Darwin has told us. So then there is no point in actually helping others. Helping others, the very foundation of helping others will come only when the idea of helping others will come only when we think that we are not this body and mind. We are much beyond what we see in our mirror or what we type on our blogs or what we write in WhatsApp University. We are much beyond that. Only when we understand that, only then truly we can serve others. Otherwise, it will be service to attain some ends. It can be fame also. I am giving something to some person, or I am helping somebody, I put it in social media and I am very happy that I have helped someone. So true help or true service can be done only when you understand or try to understand yourself. And then you understand that you're one with everybody. And most of the times people don't need anything. They just need that bond. COVID has taught this. Most people who have suffered from COVID, they had money, everything, but they were suffering because they could not get relief from either the illness itself or from the suffering caused by the illness, from the anxiety caused by the illness. What will happen? Our future has gone, or somebody dear to me has gone. What would happen? And there, people are not really looking for some kind of help in the material sense of the term. They are looking for some empathy, or better word in Sanskrit is sahanubhuti, where you experience with the other. You experience with the other. Saha anubhuti. So the other person is happy. You are also happy. Why? Because you know that there is no difference between what you think is the other and yourself. So We serve others because we see ourselves in others, or we see God in others. And that's why Sri Ramakrishna said, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. You serve people knowing them to be God. So seeing God in living beings, serve them. And what is God? You are nothing but a different manifestation of God. So everyone is God, and God alone is real, and all other things are unreal. Now call this God by any name or don't give any name. There is this famous movement called spiritual but not religious. Young people have been so fed up with the orthodoxies of religions, with the meaningless rituals of many religious traditions. In fact, Swami Vivekananda himself said, religions of the world have become lifeless mockeries. He says, lifeless mockeries. So there is so much of drama going on in the name of religion. See, suppose somebody cuts a joke, they say, oh, Swami ji, aap to joke bolte ho, aise mat karo. मतलब मुंह को बिल्कुल ऐसे गंभीर गंभीर रखना और बीच-बीच में मुस्कुराना ऐसे. This is what people have. Their idea about religion is this complete show business going on. And so why does that happen? Because of lack of clarity. Religion is experience. Religion is realization. Realizing that you're not different from what you think is the other. And by doing that, you have empathy or sahanubhuti for the other, and then you are best fitted to serve other people. So on a quest of self-discovery is also a quest of becoming one with whatever you see and one with whoever you live with in this universe. So a person who knows one's true nature will automatically become a more environmentally friendly person, a person who understands gender more. You see what we have done? We have created a lot of discourses. We have created discourses about gender. We have created discourses about orientation. We have created discourses about environment. But is there understanding? In 2021, we have so many discourses going on and much lesser understanding than probably the caveman had. So, of course, it's not a desirable thought that we go to the caveman stage, but the point is our understanding has to increase. So we have to experience oneness. We have to come closer, both in thought and mind, and also in understanding. And when we do that, then service will not be something which is imposed upon. Haan, sabki sahayata karni chahiye, isliye karo. Not like that. But we will spontaneously help others because we will find ourselves not to be different from the other. I would be happy to take any questions, and I'm very grateful to Advaita Society, is it called? Advaita Society of Hansraj College. And earlier also I gave a talk some days ago in Hansraj College. I think that was the philosophy department or some other department. And it's nice. I keep on traveling to Delhi. I've never been to the college as such. So let us see if Corona gives us the opportunity, then we'll meet in the college also. And it's good. And I think one way to study the self-discovery path is to take some text and try to study it in an independent manner, understanding the meaning, but also trying to study it in the context of 2021, in the context of millennials or Generation Z. And you try to understand how to translate these ideas into practice. And it's a great endeavor you have started. And my prayers that this goes out well and more people really find meaning in their lives in terms of this journey from knowing oneself to serving everyone. And thank you very much. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you very much, Swami ji.
मैंने क्या ज्यादा समय ले लिया क्या?
जी बिल्कुल, आपने ज्यादा समय नहीं लिया, बल्कि हम सभी को आपने enlighten किया, because we all are bounded by a certain time constant. We want to hear you more, but as we are bounded by a certain time constant, I just want to say, Swamiji, that I would like to thank you once again for presenting us a ray of optimism in the wake of pandemic. As most of us are a student, we can't go to colleges and universities. So we are now inclined to spiritualism. And as Swamiji, you have presented the true meaning of self, the true meaning of bliss, the true meaning of God, and the concept of I in a very practical way for students to understand it. The interpretation of all this thing, you have made it very easy for us, and also in a humorous tone too, because that is also required. Okay, so as I can see, there are different questions in the chat box. So I would like to take up some of the questions. So the first question is asked by Arpit Pandeji. How to overcome fear of losing our loved ones?
In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, sage Yagyavalkya answers this question in a different manner. He says, a wife does not love one's husband for the sake of the husband, but for the sake of oneself. A husband does not love the wife for the sake of the wife, but for the sake of oneself. A parent does not love one's child for the sake of the child, but for the sake of oneself. When you are loving someone, actually you're not loving that person, you are loving your own self. So if you understand this, and you understand that whatever you're seeing is but an extension of yourself, then you basically don't lose anyone. What you lose is the body, or maybe talking with that person. If the relationship, there is a breakup, then you're not talking with that person. But nobody is lost, because the entire universe is seen from your perspective. For instance, same event happening, and if there are 10 people, each one of them will have a different perspective about that event. Or let us take a tree. Everyone is looking at some part of the tree in a specific manner. So this whole universe is our perspective. So if we understand ourselves, if we are rooted on ourselves, if we are sure of ourselves, then we will not have fear of anything, also of losing a loved one.
Okay, thank you, Swamiji. I hope, Arpit, it's clear to you. Now the next question asked by Vanikaji: how to make our day productive as much as possible? I think it's the relevant question for all students who have joined today.
There are two aspects of this question. One is the mundane aspect, that is the aspect of, as Prerna just said, student life, or also employed life or business life, where you want to achieve some results, etc. That is answered by the fact that Swami Vivekananda said that if I were to get educated again, I would first learn how to have concentration. Not that Swamiji did not have concentration, but he said that the first thing one should learn is to concentrate, train the mind to do only that which it wants to do, or which you want to do. So just like we train dogs, train the mind. And untrained minds cause a lot of problems. So productivity is directly connected with spirituality, in the sense that with a trained mind, you can do work in a very, very pressured environment, because you will not be pressurized. Pressure will be there around you, but you will be calm. And you will be able to do the same work which other people take hours to do, you may be able to do in some minutes. So that's not a thing I'm just saying like that. It is a fact, and it has been tested again and again, and it is true. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Yoga is skill in action. And there, what is the skill? Being detached from the results. Being unattached to both the work and also the results. Not being not involved. There is full involvement, there is full engagement, but at the same time, detachment. Is it easy to practice? No, of course it is not. It is not easy at all. But most of the examinations, like aap kahin par bhi jao, across the India, people want to give UPSC examinations. Okay, so they are also not very easy to crack. So these are more difficult than those examinations, but this is the key. That is one aspect. And second aspect is, of this question. Why are we so much bothering about productivity? What are we going to produce? That's my question. Because essentially we produce everything for the sake of happiness. So is it our pursuit to find a constant happiness, or are we trying to find something which changes, and so make our happiness dependent on something which is changing? So that means that our happiness also will change. So why are we giving so much importance to productivity? Productivity is overrated. So I want to produce so much, I want to produce so much. Even education is overrated in that sense, because I run a school, I see all the time how so much educated people are absolutely foolish people. They have so much degree, but they don't have a bit of common sense. They don't see the world as it has to be seen. They have no idea about what is happening around them. There is no general knowledge. So productivity means what? Question productivity. What do you think is productivity? If you can, without doing much, be happy and be of meaningful, bring meaning to other people's lives, help them in their suffering, means remove their suffering, you are productive. What is it that you are chasing? Targets or some deadlines or some, you have to, even knowledge. See how many people cram up books, but what are we studying? I always ask people who have studied physics, I ask them basic questions about physics, because I'm a fool, I don't know, okay? So I ask them, and I'm surprised they don't know, and they have PhDs in physics. So I've gone to most premier institutions in the country where they do research, and you will find that they are so narrowed, like horses have blinkers on them. Horses see only like that. They have a totally tunnel vision, it's called. They have a narrow vision. Are you calling this productivity? So very question of productivity has to be rethought of. What is being productive? And why is it that our young minds, such promising minds, are putting so much time in things which are mechanical? And I point you to this book, wonderful book written by Thomas Friedman. This book, he's an award-winning journalist. This book is called Thank You for Being Late. The book is called, many of you might have already read. If you haven't, please read this book, Thank You for Being Late. He analyzes the challenges posed by artificial intelligence, and he says, what are the things which will actually make us stand out, even when the whole world will come. So artificial intelligence is again highly misunderstood. It's not that robots will start ruling the world or something, but artificial intelligence technologies have been already working in this world for some time now. So what is it? So among that, one thing he says is empathy. Empathy, human beings have empathy, and that no artificial system can have. And so when we talk of productivity, are we talking about this? For example, I was surprised before coming here. I was not surprised for that. Before coming here, I was in Uttarakhand, in Himalayas. There is a place called Mayavati, and it has got no connection with the politician of the same name, and Mayavati. And that in that place, Swami Vivekananda started a beautiful ashrama. It's called Advaita Ashrama. You're all in Delhi. Please visit this place. Beautiful place, 6,400 feet above sea level. 4.5 kilometers from the nearest Himalayan village. Very calm. You can hear your own heartbeat in the daytime. Wonderful place. And there, I'm so from there to here. So productivity. There also people are, there the Swamiji says in his lectures that the heart of our country, Bharatatma in Bengali says, lies in the Himalayas. So there, the height of a ambition of a young person is to have a two-wheeler. He gets one two-wheeler and gets one chow mein plate, khatam kahani. So I was surprised. They are living so close to Delhi, but they still have this kind of, of course, they are all exposed to internet, everything, but still this is how, so the productivity, productivity there is completely, it has got a different meaning. Whereas here, it has got a different meaning. In Delhi, it has got a different meaning. So what are we talking about? What are we, thinking about as productivity? So let us train our minds, and then we will be able to better understand that what we think is productivity is not productivity. That's the point. What we think as productivity is not productivity. That is not what is productivity.
Sure. Thank you, Swamiji, for presenting such a holistic picture of productivity. And friends, let me remind you all that till now, Swamiji has just prescribed us 3 books that we all should read: Waking, Dreaming, Being, Zen and the Brain. And thank you for being late. These are the 3 books. So please, I think we all should refer. So kindly refer this. He has asked how to apply Vairagya in corporate world.
अच्छा, so ये सवाल ही आपका बड़ा अद्भुत है. वैराग्य in corporate world. See, corporate world stands for, as it is now, it stands for all not positive aspects of human society, like grow up to the disadvantage of the weaker section, make money, etc. So the very word corporate has brought this kind of thing. So how to apply Vairagya in corporate world? If you're thinking of Vairagya, probably you're in the wrong place. What is Vairagya? Vairagya is Iha Amutra Phala Bhoga Viraga. That is the definition given in the Sanskrit text. That means one is detached from experiences of fruits of one's action in this world and the hereafter. That is after death, next Janma or some other Swarga or heaven, whatever it is. So now if you are saying that I will be in the corporate world and I have to be Vairagya, it's like saying a diabetic person is saying, mere samne jalebi rahegi, main khaunga nahi. That doesn't make sense. That's why one of the practices in spirituality is Uparama. Uparama means withdrawing sense organs from the sense objects. It is not, if you like biryani and always you get the smell of biryani, eventually you'll end up eating biryani. It does not work like that. So distance is also necessary. So why would you want to be in a corporate world if you want to practice Vairagya? Having said that, there are of course stages of evolution in spirituality, as in every discipline of life. So if you are in the corporate world and suddenly now you have realized that Vairagya bhi to chahiye, then do whatever you're doing, have your goal setting, do it with full involvement, do not bother about the result. Very easily said. Of course, it's quite difficult to practice. That is the beginning point. You start from there. And corporate world involves a lot of manipulation. If you really want to have Vairagya, one should completely give up manipulation. So that's one more thing. Politics, manipulation, all these things are there in corporate world. We cannot deny that. That will be foolish to deny. मैं क्या ये वाला सवाल पढ़ सकता हूँ कि समय हो गया?
Sure.
According to Jaina philosophy, Charvi, I don't know how to pronounce, Charvi Doshi, renouncing the world step by step helps you in breaking the cycle of karma and attaining the moksha. I believe in it, but I also believe in acquiring merit to become a wiser and better person. Which one should I choose? See, in Jaina philosophy, renouncing the world step by step, that is called anuvrata. One of the methods how you do it is called anuvrata. So you do things you bring the magnitude of the thing, practice to such a level or such a quantum or size that you can do it. For example, telling the truth. If one were to say, I will from here on never tell untruth, that is good, that is desirable. But then some people might feel that I'm unable to keep up that practice. So Jaina philosophy says, okay, make it anuvrata. Every Monday I will not tell any untruth. So obviously, if it is not properly understood, it has got its negative, or it almost becomes hypocritical. But you every Monday or every Wednesday, come what may, I will not tell an untruth or a lie. मैं झूठ बोलूंगा नहीं या बोलूंगी नहीं. हर सोमवार को ये है ऐसा व्रत. So that is what Jaina philosophy, that's a very wonderful system of Jaina philosophy or Jaina dharma. Now here, if you also believe in acquiring merit to become a wiser and better person, wiser in what sense? Wiser in understanding the unreality of the world and understanding your true nature, or wiser in understanding how mutual funds work and how you can get better return? If that is the thing you want to become, then it totally clashes with moksha. Swami Vivekananda says you cannot worship, he borrows that thing from the Bible. It is there in the Bible. You cannot worship God and mammon. मतलब आप भगवान और हैवान की पूजा एक साथ नहीं कर सकते. It's simply not possible. Like you cannot have 1 feet in one boat, 2 boats, 1 feet in one boat means it's not going to, you're going to simply drown, that's all. So either choose moksha. Moksha can be done living in this world, means it is possible you can attain moksha. But if you want to go behind the sense objects, you want to understand this world better through all the experience of sense objects, then of course it is not possible. You are going to only increase your suffering. This is a question which is asked everywhere. You know, in Sanskrit, it is called Preya Shreya. Preya means that is Priya, which is pleasurable. And Shreya means which is preferable. So something is preferable. For a diabetes patient, sweet eating is pleasurable. Because many people say don't eat. So whenever somebody tells you don't do that, we want to do that. It's something we carry from our childhood. And not eating sweet is preferable. So like in the Matrix, you know, there is this red pill and the blue pill. So which pill you choose? So this question is going to be there your entire life. And you have to choose the preferable over the pleasurable.
Thank you, Swamiji. One more question. Anmol Verma ji has asked that Swamiji, I'm in a problem that I want to become a spiritual, but the feeling of losing the materialistic pleasure always disturb me. So how can I overcome that?
There was a agnostic philosopher. Agnostic means a person who does not say whether God exists or does not exist. So there was an agnostic philosopher called Robert Ingersoll. And Swamiji, when he was in the United States, used to now and then visit him, and they were quite friends. And once Swamiji went to meet this Ingersoll, he was drinking orange juice. You know, as it is a habit with people generally, I don't know why, but even then it was in USA and now also in India also, people try to make fun of monks because somehow they think that monks ne to galti ki hai. Actually, it is because of, you know, they don't like, they are jealous कि ये आदमी सब कुछ छोड़ के इतना हंसी मजाक कैसे कर लेता है. So it's like a sadistic thing there. तो क्योंकि सास भी कभी बहू थी, you know, this kind of philosophy. So that person also made fun of Swamiji. He said, hey, monk, you are become a monk. You say, I'm drinking this orange juice. You cannot drink orange juice because you don't earn. So because you don't earn, you cannot buy orange juice and drink. See, I am drinking and enjoying. So Swamiji immediately said, no, I can enjoy the orange juice and I can enjoy it better than you because I can enjoy it till the last drop. That's the point. If somebody gives me something, I am not earning and everything is running through donation. So somebody is giving me something. I did not expect it in the first place. Second place, I will enjoy it as long as it lasts till the last drop. And then I am not expecting that in the future I will get it. Whereas anybody who is earning, even while experiencing that particular thing, will think, abhi आगे ये मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा, बाद में रहेगा कि नहीं रहेगा, या अभी तो ये खत्म हो जाएगा. So the point is not that by being spiritual you cannot experience. That's a wrong idea. You can experience in a more wholesome manner, in a more immersive manner. That's the key word, immersive. In virtual reality and all that, immersive experience. So immersive manner you can experience because you are not expecting anything. So the problem here is not the experience itself, it is the expectation. So suppose somebody tells some good words about your makeup or your dress, just enjoy the moment. Don't think that has to be replicated every time. क्योंकि उतने अच्छे कोई नहीं होते ना, तो so don't think of that replication. Just enjoy that experience. Okay, so losing the materialistic pleasure. And also in your question itself, the answer is there. When you're saying it is materialistic, that means it is not going to be there forever. It is temporary. Why do you want to enjoy something temporary? And how can somebody enjoy something temporary? So if you just, so for example, if you like some food, you just go and have that food. Don't imagine what will happen, or don't even expect what will happen when that food is exhausted. Just enjoy that particular. There's something Buddhist masters say, and that is again something which is completely misunderstood. They say, be in the moment. So be in the moment means what? If you don't expect anything, you will automatically be in the moment. So there is no, I don't see any dichotomy, any conflict there. The conflict comes because you are attached to things. If you're not attached to things, then automatically there will be no conflict, because you will be able to enjoy things. You watch a movie, you'll be, suppose you are, say, a fan of, say, SRK, or you are a fan of some other actor, and then you want that the actor should perform well, or the actor should act well, then you are going to have problems. Because if that actor is going to, bomb, then you are not going to like it. So the whole idea is attachment. Attachment should not be there. If you have no attachment, then you will be able to experience the world like anything. That's what Swami Vivekananda says. I will be able to enjoy. I enjoy the orange juice till the last drop. I hope that helps. Anmol Varma. Naam hi Anmol hai. Kaam to fir kya kehne.
Ji, bilkul. I also believe that, Anmolji, your dilemma has been solved to some extent today. So, Swamiji, we would be taking up the last question, which has been asked by Rajatji. That is the consciousness tied to bodily existence, or can it does exist even after the decay of the sthul sarir? And if yes, then in what form?
Now, consciousness does not have any form. When I say consciousness, I mean consciousness as it is understood in Advaita Vedanta, that is Brahman. It does not have any form. It has no name, it has no form, it has no death, it has no birth. So, bodily existence, consciousness is not tied to bodily existence. One reads consciousness in bodily existence. Actually, there is no bodily existence. There is only consciousness that exists. There is no other. So whenever we see bodily existence, whenever we see something other, whenever we see names and forms, this is all because of ignorance. When did the ignorance start? Nobody knows. And nobody knows that when ignorance started. And all the masters give this answer. They answer this question. Suppose somebody asks, when did this ignorance, you're saying avidya, jnana, maya, etc. When did this start? They give a counter question. How does it matter? When ignorance started, even if you know the date of birth of ignorance, it's not going to matter, because the point is that it has to stop. And how it will stop, we know. So, sthula sharira or any other form is not consciousness. Consciousness is not tied to any name or form. It is a misreading of consciousness. Just like in a rope, you see snake where it was not there at all. It is from your previous memory of snake that you see snake in rope. Similarly, here there is no previous memory, but here you identify consciousness with the body, whereas consciousness has no bodily existence. What form does God have, impersonal or personal? God is both personal, both impersonal, and maybe even beyond that. This is what Sri Ramakrishna said to this question. He answered this question. Because all this personal, impersonal, all are different understandings or different readings of God, which is only consciousness. Just like this Andha Gaja Nyaya, it is called in Sanskrit, that is blind man and elephant. You all know that. So many blind people, they went and approached elephant. Some person says it's like a fan. Some person says it is something like wall, etc. seeing different aspects of or different parts of elephant. There is another question. Could you please tell some readings for Swami Vivekananda's philosophy? Readings, one can read. There is this book called, a small book called Karma Yoga. One can read that. But better than that book also, there is this book called Lectures from Colombo to Almora. Swami Vivekananda, when he returned from the West in 1897, he gave a series of lectures from Colombo, which is now in Sri Lanka, to Almora in Uttarakhand. And there is a collection of these lectures. And that book, I believe every young person of our country should read that book. It gives not only in a very brief manner, interesting manner, the traditions and cultures and philosophies of our country, but it also tells us what to do to keep up in that path of, Swamiji said, our goal, the ideals of this country, that is Bharata or India, is service and renunciation, त्याग और सेवा. These are the two ideals. ये हमारे देश के दो आदर्श हैं. And he says, channelize the country on these two lines and everything will take care of themselves. So, and unfortunately, I don't think any educational institution or very few educational institutions teach this, the tyag or seva. And parents also don't teach that. So most of the parents. So this is what. So please read this Lectures from Colombo to Almora, and it is very nice. And it will give you a lot of insight to what exactly our country's tradition is and what our country's personality. Every country or race also has a personality. How to stop overthinking. There are two aspects of this problem again. If you are already thinking how to stop overthinking, that's a progress. But overthinking can happen because of mental trauma, and which is sometimes it is called post-traumatic stress disorder. Sometimes it is simple anxiety problem. Depending upon how much you are overthinking, whether it is random thoughts and whether it is followed by or it is accompanied with sweating, your palms sweat, etc. I think then you need to go and meet a psychologist, because then mind, just like the body, this is something again people don't understand. Mind, just like the body, can also fall ill, and we need to go to the specialist for the treatment. But if you are thinking like how most people overthink, they think, "Are kya hoga? After this, what will I do in my career, etc." Having a plan of life for the next 3 months, what am I going to do? For the next 6 months, what am I going to do? For the next 1 year, what am I going to do? This helps. So think, give some time to your life and make a plan. Once you do that, then this overthink, every time you overthink, then you can take out the plan and see how much you have approached, and you can change the goal also. But as I told you earlier, there is this serious medical condition, psychological condition of people thinking random thoughts where they cannot control the thoughts. If that is what you are referring to, then you need to consult a practitioner, psychologist or a psychiatrist, and get therapy or help for that. Again, thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Sure. Thank you very much, Swamiji, for replying all the queries. And I hope that many of us got enlightened today. And the thirst of knowledge that we all seek, it has been quenched to a greater extent. So thank you very much once again, Swamiji, for joining us. And now let's welcome Neha Nandini ji for a wonderful stuti. So Neha ji.
नमस्कार। वह शक्ति हमें दो दयानिधि, कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जावे। वह शक्ति हमें दो दयानिधि, कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जावे। पर सेवा पर उपकार में हम निज जीवन सफल बना जावे। हम दीन दुखी निबलो विकलो के सेवक बन संताप हरे। जो हो बोले भटके बिछड़े उनको तारे खुद तर जावे। वह शक्ति हमें दो दया निधि कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जाए। छल द्वेष दंभ पाखंड झूठ अन्याय से निश दिन दूर रहे। जीवन हो शुद्ध सरल अपना सुचि प्रेम सुधारस बरसावे। वह शक्ति हमें दो दया निधि कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जावे। निज आन मान मर्यादा का प्रभु ध्यान रहे अभिमान रहे। जिस देव भूमि में जन्म लिया बलिदान उसी पर हो जावे। वह शक्ति हमें दो दया निधि कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जावे। पर सेवा पर उपकार में हम निज जीवन सफल बना जा।
Thank you very much, Neha ji, for this awesome performance. And we will definitely gain that Shakti. So before coming to the end of this session, I would like to call upon Rajat ji to propose a vote of thanks. So Rajat ji.
Yeah, thank you, Prerna. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
For vote of thanks, I would like to begin with an expression of gratitude for the chief guest of today's session, Swami Narasimhananda, for enlightening us with his wise and noble words. Thanks is due to our principal, Dr. Rama ma'am, and the convener, Dr. Parul ma'am as well, who since the very inception of Advaita have been a guiding light for all of us. We are grateful to all the eminent professors and attendees from college, our volunteers from different colleges, and the organizers who put in a great deal of effort in making this event possible. I am also thankful to the members of Gandharv Mandal who mesmerized us with their performances, and Prerna ji, who is conducting this session in a very commendable manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajat ji. And as now we have reached the last stage of today's session, the journey, the beautiful journey that we all have embarked upon. So we would like to wrap up the session with Kalyan Mantra. So I would like to call Umakant ji for Kalyan Mantra.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।
Thank you very much, Umakant ji. And thank you everyone, especially Swamiji, for joining us, for giving your precious time to us, and the audience, because you all have shown the patience and the enthusiasm. And at last, one announcement for all of you, that we have actually begun a series. So in this series, our next session will be held on 24th of November. So please join it with the same enthusiasm and zeal that you all have shown today. So thank you very much to all of you. Namaskar.